Tool Tip Tuesday, we're back, another one. This week it's the Shrinker Stretcher. So I've got your generic budget off-the-shelf handheld Shrinker Stretcher that I've just mounted on the stand I made, and now it's a kick shrinker. This thing is a bugger. So it's like reversing a trailer. You don't know what's happening, until you figure it out and you're like, how did I never understand that? It's so logical. So if you don't understand it first, don't be pissed off with yourself. It took me weeks. But it's so simple. Hopefully after this video you get it. Bazinga! This Tool Tip Tuesday, we got the shrinker and the stretcher. Let's see how they work. Okay. Took me a while to grasp the concept of shrinking, bringing a flange around, stretching, bringing a flange around, and what it does to compound shapes. So I'm going to break these jaws apart, show you how they work, and hopefully you can grasp the concept faster than I did. So here we have the shrinker. We can see these as jaws inside. As we compress the two plates together, they close. That's how it's shrinking the metal. All it's doing is taking it and pushing them together. So this is how it pushes them together. If we have a look on the back here, we've got these two V blocks. All that's doing is this bottom one sits stationary, this top one gets pushed down with an arm. As it pushes it, it moves in the V block itself, just like that. And then moves down and in towards each other, essentially taking a sheet of metal and just moving it a little bit closer, causing it to be thicker in the middle. The stretcher works exactly the same way as the shrinker, just completely opposite. So instead of pulling the two blocks together, here now we're pulling the jaws apart, pulling the metal away from each other, and essentially making more metal, stretching it, thinning it out. So you can see here, this V block we're pressing down and then pulling these jaws apart. It's too hard to do by hand, I don't have the mechanical advantage, but I'm going to disassemble this and then show you. On the stretcher, as we're pushing down, it's pulling these jaws apart like that, stretching the metal. So we've got textured here, where it grips the aluminium, then compresses the two jaws together and pulls the aluminium apart. Here we can see the shrinker and the stretcher next to each other. You can see that it's almost a female V blocks on the shrinker because it moves up and squeezes them together. Whereas on the stretcher, it's male V blocks pressing down into the jaws, causing them to push apart. What I'm explaining in this clip is why I've converted the shrinker stretcher from a desk mount to a kick shrinker. And that is when I'm working a large panel, I don't want to awkwardly be holding it and then try to operate the shrinker at the same time, losing balance or bending the metal where I don't want to bend it. So now I can actuate it easily just by foot while holding a panel comfortably. When using the kick shrinker, it's the same as a hammer and dolly. What you want to do is little bit by little bit by little bit, small increments. You don't want to do one hard shrink. Yeah, you're going to get the panel to come around, but it's going to cause almost a kink and you're going to have a very hard spot in the material, big difference in thickness. What we want to do is multiple light shrinks in the area we want to come around. That way, there's nothing drastic and it's easy to blend and make it look smooth. We're going to start with the shrinking jaws. So what we're going to do is we're going to want this face here. We're going to shrink, which is going to cause the metal to bend and bow around like that. Now we're going to use this round dolly as a gauge. Just to show you, the more we shrink, the more it comes around. And eventually, this is going to fit this radius. So we start by marking where do we want to shrink, what area. The center, there, the end of the radius is there, the other end, there. Happy days. We're not going to touch anywhere else, we just want that radius. This is still going to stay straight. We'll just go to the shrinker now. And we work little bit by little bit. Not one large kick, just multiple small ones. You can see the panel slowly coming around. We're in control the whole time of what it's doing. That's what we want. So you can see how I'm moving and overlapping all my shrinks. The more we shrink in one spot, the more it's going to come around in that spot. You can see the textured marks from the jaws where it's actually gripping the metal together. That's what all these lines are. So you get different sorts of jaws. You get ones that are stippled, and you get ones with these lines. The stippled jaws are a lot nicer, but a lot more expensive because they don't leave such a mar behind, and it's much easier to file and sand away. But you just get these ones, they're super cheap, they do the same thing. It's a little bit more of a timely cleanup process in the end. As you can see, it's starting to come around now. So we're happy with 5% of it. We just mark the center where we don't want to shrink more, and then we know we go to the edges. So we're happy there. That's good. Now we're going to shrink only here and only there because that's touching and fitting our radius already. This is such a tight radius that we're going to have to shrink an extreme amount to get it to come and fit this radius. What that's going to cause is a little bit of a hollow on the other side of our flange. It's not a big problem at all. We can just put a dolly there and hit it flat, stretching that, causing it to sit nice and flat again. So we can see how that's started hollowing out. There, you can see the light coming through. It's always going to do that. It's not a problem at all. All we do then is put a flat dolly on the backside and hammer here. There we go, it's no longer hollow. Happy days. So we can see here now how we've got quite a consistent finish. There's no extreme highs and lows that we have to file away or panel beat. So now I'm going to do one just for example and kick shrink not multiple soft ones, but one hard one. And then you can see how it makes a pucker, and you'll be able to see in the future that that's going to be a problem to clean up. There we go. Now you can see that little mountain, the crown it makes. So as we see here, as we shrink the edge, it's going to cause it to come around. Where if we had to stretch it and add more material, we just think about pulling these two ends apart, opening it up. That's what would happen if you stretch. So I'm going to start stretching here now and making a bit of an S shape because we're going to be adding more material. So that's going to cause this to come up to the stretching. Whoopa, there we go. I broke the rule. Small little increments. I went one large shrink, and that's what you end with consistently. That's the result you get, a tear. So that's just me being lazy, trying to speed up the process for the video. But that's a consistent result you'll get if you hit too hard or if you stand on the pedal too hard. So shrinking, you can get away with squeezing almost too hard, but stretching, it's a lot easier to do. So we just go even softer and more consistent with the kick shrinker. I'm a huge fan of the kick shrinker when it comes to shrinking. Stretching, I never use the jaws at all. I find what gives me a much neater, consistent result, and I never end up cracking the material, is I will just put a dolly on the backside and I'll just hammer it and stretch it out with a hammer and dolly. That way, I never have to worry about stepping on too hard and stretching too much or tearing the material. I can work in tiny increments consistently. So we can see here we've got a flat surface, there's no bow. Now all I'm going to do is stretch here with the hammer and dolly to cause this to come around. Bam! There we go. You can see the light coming through there now. The slides is the bows. It's no longer straight. And look how nice that finishes. Besides using a beat up edged hammer, it's smooth, it's incremental, it's neat. That's the Shrinker Stretcher. I hope you learned something. So, shrinking and stretching on a compound shape and not a flange. What does it do? How does it work? Why would we do it? So, if we've got a bunch of shape here and this edge we want to come down. If we shrink there, it's going to bring this edge down and this shape up. If we've got a little bit of a hollow close to the edge, the metal always follows the path of least resistance. So if we shrink this edge with a hollow here, it's just going to make that hollow bigger. But if there's no hollow and it's just a compound shape, then it's just going to act as this is coming up and this comes down. So you can clearly see I'm just going to put the gauge on there. There we go. The gauge is touching all the way through. Now we shrink and we see how it gets more shape. Now with shrinking jaws in, we can get to shrinking. There we go. That edge has started to come down and shape's being pumped into the middle. So now if we haven't changed it at all, we can see a world of a difference. Doesn't even look like the same panel. Now, if we want to flatten that again, we can just put a hammer and dolly and stretch that edge, or we can just go to a wheel and stretch it, and we'll be able to get it to fit this gauge again. Let me grab a hammer, dolly, stretch it out and show you how it's done. So now we can put our gauge on and see where it's touching. It's touching in the center still, so we know that's a high. If this was a panel and we're trying to get this shape. So it's pretty simple. We just want it to come down where it's touching. So we can see it's touching along that edge. So all we do is stretch that edge, nowhere else. So when we want to know where we must stretch for the panel to fit the gauge, just wherever it's touching. So we can see it's touching that edge there. So we stretch only there. That's going to cause that to come down and these two edges to come up. And we check again, getting closer, still needs to come down more, so we stretch more. Oh, happy days. There we go. Touching the gauge. There, we could stretch a little bit more to fill up that light hole. So we'll do that quick and then happy days. So wherever we want the panel to come down is where we stretch the edge. There we go. Now you can see we've stretched the edge again and it's back to fitting our gauge. So the basics behind it is if you want the panel to lift up, you shrink where you want it to lift up. If you want the panel to come down, you stretch where it must come down.